Yes, it's high time we crowned it up with information sources that we introduced previously, and we already elaborated more on primary sources of information, where the main idea there we brought that this is always what we're calling first hand information. You are the witness yourself, you are at the scene. That information you get, it is not what is manipulated to be anyhow, neither is it distorted information, but it is something which is called authentic. Now, as we wind up, let's look at a friend to primary source. We call it the secondary sources of information, where we are saying a secondary source is the one that interprets, analyzing what we're calling as the primary sources. So if they're interpreted, they're analyzed, it becomes a secondary source of information. That means it has been changed to be something which is meaningful finally at last. It is one step removed from the original materials and often provides a broader perspective and critical insight into the primary data. You analyze it, you discuss, you give your submission, you interpret the way you understand. That is a secondary source. Some of its notable characteristic of these secondary sources, you find that interpretative. They are what we're calling interpretative. That is what we're calling as a secondary sources. Involve some level of analysis, synthesis, the evaluation of what we're calling these primary sources, and they explain how critique the primary source or the events that it represents. Positive critique is not a criticism, but it is what? A critique, and it's a positive one that is based on what we're calling as ideological setup, and the idea that you have to correct something here and there and make it evaluative. And another word, another characteristic there is evaluative. They offer opinions or assessment based on evidence that may be drawn from the primary data. They are summarized, it is summarized, those primary sources summarize it. And contextual as well. Find that examples of now what we are calling as the secondary sources includes now the books. Those are an examples of what we are calling as secondary sources, whereby history books analyze a specific historical period or event, like a book discussing the causes of World War One. You are discussing World War One that happened some time back. Those that wrote the book, they are those that have the primary source of information because they were there that time. But you discussing at the moment, you are discussing what was taking place. You are analyzing the synthesis up to the current situation. Next is what we call the journal articles, the documentaries, encyclopedias, essay and reviews. All these, the examples or the sources of what we're calling secondary information. Next, the purpose of this one is what we're calling contextualization. This provides the necessary context for primary data. The context now, when discussed, you can give it for review, you can highlight on the major input because they synthesize information to offer now a wider understanding of a particular event or idea that have happened, and we are calling it an event. So that is what I mean by that. It provides the rooms for what we're calling analysis and interpretation to give now a broader perspectives and understandings of information from the primary sources. So those are purpose of it, and the role in research is that the secondary sources are used to support or critique the use of primary sources. Primary sources, it is advised that most of the researchers should use because will be at the scene. But now these secondary sources just support the use of those primary sources, helping the scholars to interpret primary data by providing the existing frameworks, provide the existing theories, provide the existing methodologies and everything you have used. Often it guides researchers in framing their own question, in situating their findings within larger debates, or what we're calling as context. So these two, primary sources and secondary sources, move hand in hand. You cannot know primary source of information and you hide it, yet people are looking for the information. You have to give it so that people present now a summarized and a brief report about something that seems to be broader, and then like to be something which is small and the issue solved if it is a problem identified somewhere. So these are the advantages of the two sources of information, primary and secondary sources. Up next, we look at academic writings, APA writing style, citation, probably referencing in the next video. This is information literacy. I remain Priscopius. Subscribe to the YouTube channel.